My dear brothers and sisters, when Shaitan attacks your mind, he does not come with noise, clarity, or force. He comes quietly, softly, slipping into the spaces of your thoughts when you are tired, when you are stressed, when you are overwhelmed, when you feel alone. He plants a single seed, a doubt, a fear, a dark thought, a hopeless whisper, and he waits for it to grow. He knows that if he can shake your mind, he will shake your worship. If he can disturb your thoughts, he will disturb your peace. And if he can enter your heart through a whisper, he can take you far away from the serenity Allah wants for you. Shaitan's goal is not just to make you commit a sin. His goal is to make you believe you are broken beyond repair, to make you doubt your worth, to make you question Allah's mercy, to make you see your life through a lens of fear and disappointment. He doesn't begin with major things. He begins with small whispers. You're failing. Nobody cares. Allah won't forgive you. Your dua doesn't matter. Your future is dark. And the moment you entertain the whisper, he strengthens it. But here is what Shaitan hates. The moment a believer remembers Allah, the moment a believer says A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, the moment a believer reconnects with the Qur'an, the entire illusion collapses. And it is often in that exact moment, when the darkness in your mind feels strongest, that Allah sends a sign, a verse you read by accident, a reminder someone shares, a khutbah you stumble upon, a moment of calm in the middle of chaos. Allah places light exactly where Shaitan tries to place shadows. This is the mercy of Allah. He never leaves a believer alone with their whispers. Allah says, those who fear Allah, when an impulse from Shaitan touches them, they remember, and at once they see clearly. Think about that. Clarity comes instantly when remembrance enters. Your mind becomes lighter, your chest feels clearer, your hope reawakens, because light and darkness cannot stay in the same place. Sometimes you will feel under attack, at the worst possible time, during Salah, when trying to do good, when trying to change your life. That is not a sign that you are weak, it is a sign that you are valuable. Shaitan does not chase empty houses, he chases hearts that are turning toward Allah. So if you feel targeted, understand that you are on a path he fears. He wants to distract you from the blessings that are already on their way to you. He wants to stop your transformation before it begins. And it is exactly in these moments that Allah is building your spiritual muscles, strengthening your faith, and preparing you for a level of peace you have never experienced. Look at real-life stories. How many people felt their minds drowning in anxiety, doubt, or intrusive thoughts, only to find peace in a verse like "Indeed, after hardship comes ease," or "Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear." How many people felt hopeless until a single reminder unlocked a door in their hearts? A woman crying at night suddenly finds a lecture that feels like it was created exactly for her situation. A young man overwhelmed with guilt reads a hadith about Allah's forgiveness and collapses into sujood. A person on the edge of giving up finds strength in a dua their mother used to make. These are not coincidences. These are lifelines. Allah sends in the exact moment Shaitan tries to drown you. But the believer must prepare, because Shaitan does not attack once, he attacks repeatedly. You must build a fortress around your heart. Dhikr is not just remembrance, it is protection. Qur'an is not just recitation, it is armor. Sujood is not just worship, it is healing. When you purify your heart, strengthen your habits, clean your intentions, and trust in Allah deeply, your mind becomes a place where Shaitan cannot build a home. He may whisper, but the whisper dies before it grows. He may try to darken your thoughts, but your heart shines too brightly. And as you build this inner resilience, something beautiful happens. Blessings begin to flow, doors open, fear fades, hope awakens. You begin to see why Allah allowed you to go through that mental battle. It was training, preparation. You are not being attacked because you are weak. You are being shaped because you are meant for more. And when Allah prepares you, nothing and no one, not even Shaitan, can stop what He has written for you. Every morning begins with a divine invitation, a gentle reminder that Allah has allowed your soul to return to your body once again, giving you another chance to rewrite your story, renew your intentions, and realign your life with His guidance. When a believer opens their eyes at dawn, they are not just waking up from sleep, they are waking up to opportunity, mercy, and limitless blessings that are waiting to descend upon those who seek them. The morning is not an ordinary part of the day. It is a sacred window during which Allah opens doors that remain closed at any other time. It is the time when your heart is the most honest, your mind the most clear, and your soul the most receptive. Angels witness your first steps, your first words, your first breath of gratitude, and your first act of worship, and they carry these moments upwards as a testimony of your devotion. There is a barakah in the early hours that can never be found later in the day. It is as though the world has not yet fully awakened, and Allah pours tranquility into the atmosphere so that those who rise early can feel a calm that strengthens their faith. The light before sunrise has a different meaning for the believer. It is not just the light of a new day, but the light of new hope, new rizq, new forgiveness, and new beginnings. When the Prophet ﷺ prayed for barakah in the mornings for his ummah, he was teaching us that morning isn't just a routine, it is a spiritual secret that unlocks sustenance, clarity, discipline, and success. Every morning Allah writes decrees for his servants, and among these decrees are the opportunities, financial blessings, emotional healing, and spiritual openings that people have been praying for. But these blessings descend upon hearts that are awake and aware. The morning sunnah acts like a spiritual anchor, grounding you before the storms of the day even begin. Imagine a person who starts their morning scrolling on their phone, rushing through tasks, or waking up with stress heavy on their chest. Their soul enters the day empty, restless, and unprotected. But imagine someone who starts with the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, someone who says the morning adhkar, recites the du'as of protection, offers 2 units of sunnah prayer, or reflects upon a verse of the Qur'an even for a minute. Such a person walks into the world as though wrapped in divine light, as though escorted by angels, as though their heart has already been strengthened before the challenges even arrive. Starting your day with a connection to Allah is like starting a journey with a full tank of fuel, while everyone else is running on empty. When you practice the morning sunnah consistently, even silently, even privately, you will begin to notice something subtle but powerful changing within you. You start feeling calmer in moments that used to overwhelm you. You start noticing opportunities you once ignored. You start responding with patience in situations where you previously reacted with frustration. You begin to feel a certain flow in your day, as though Allah is guiding your steps, easing your path, and placing the right people, the right chances, and the right solutions in front of you. And the remarkable part is that you cannot always explain why life feels more manageable, but deep down you know the source of this change. The morning sunnah aligns you with the rhythm Allah created for your success. It teaches your heart to prioritize Him before anything else. And when Allah is placed first, everything else falls into the place it was meant to be. This is why the scholars say that anyone who wants barakah in their wealth, peace, family, health, and opportunities must take the early hours seriously. It is the time when du'as are answered, forgiveness is granted, and destinies begin to shift in ways the human eye cannot immediately see. There are moments in life when a person feels stuck, as if the doors of ease have closed, and the weight of responsibilities grows heavier with each passing day. Sometimes the heart whispers that something is missing, that despite working hard, striving and pushing forward, the results feel delayed or completely out of reach. In those moments, a believer begins to seek answers, wondering why their efforts seem scattered, or why peace feels distant. The truth is that barakah does not simply come from action, it comes from the alignment of the heart with Allah, and the morning sunnah is one of the most powerful ways to create that alignment. When you wake up with purpose, with intention, and with remembrance, you begin your entire day under a divine umbrella that shields you from anxiety and brings clarity to your plans. There is a spiritual law that the early hours carry, an unseen blessing placed within them by Allah, and whoever taps into it begins to feel their life subtly reorganize. When a believer spends even a few minutes in remembrance at dawn, their heart becomes like a cleansed mirror, reflecting truth and guidance, with far more clarity than at any other time. This is why decisions made in the morning often feel wiser, intentions formed at that hour often feel purer, and goals set during those quiet moments seem to carry more weight and sincerity. The mind is not yet polluted by noise, the emotions are not yet shaken by the world, and the soul is closest to its natural state of submission. It is in this stillness that Allah places understanding, inspiration, and direction. A person who begins their morning with the sunnah steps into the day with a kind of spiritual immunity. It is not that problems disappear, but they lose their ability to overwhelm. When your first act of the day is an act of devotion, you are silently declaring that Allah is the center of your life, not stress, not money, not people, not fear. The moment you raise your hands in dua or whisper morning adhkar, the heaviness inside you begins to loosen. It becomes easier to think clearly, to breathe deeply, and to handle what the day brings without breaking. This is one of the greatest gifts of the early hours, the ability to enter the day proactive, not reactive. There are countless stories of individuals who transformed their routines by simply adopting a small morning sunnah practice. People who struggled with financial instability suddenly found opportunities opening, not because their circumstances changed overnight, but because their heart became aligned with the one who controls all sustenance. Others felt a shift in their relationships, noticing more harmony, patience, and compassion in their homes. Some found that their work became more effective, their creativity sharper, and their discipline stronger. These inner changes eventually led to outer blessings, because barakah often begins inside long before it appears outside. The morning sunnah trains the soul to prioritize what truly matters. It teaches you that before you chase income, you should chase the one who provides it. Before you seek solutions, you should seek the one who sends them. When you begin your day with Allah's remembrance, you walk into your tasks with a heart already fueled by divine strength. You worry less, because you trust more. You rush less, because your soul feels anchored. You complain less, because your heart feels enriched. You begin to notice that your small efforts suddenly yield bigger results. Your day flows smoother, and your mind feels more organized, as if Allah Himself is arranging your path with gentle precision. There are times when Shaytan does not attack from the outside, but from deep within, whispering thoughts that shake a person's belief in themselves and in their connection with Allah. He plants seeds of doubt in the mind, questioning your worth, your sincerity, your future, and even your past. These whispers often come in the quietest hours, when you're alone, tired, or emotionally drained, making you feel as though you are far from Allah, even when you are trying your best to return to Him. Shaytan's strongest weapon is not physical harm, but mental disruption, confusion, and emotional exhaustion. He thrives when your thoughts spiral, and your heart begins to panic. But Allah has taught us that the mind can become a fortress when it is filled with remembrance, and a believer's awareness is the first step toward shutting down the attacks that try to weaken their spirit. When a troubling thought enters the mind, Shaytan swiftly builds on it, adding fear to fear, doubt to doubt, until a person feels overwhelmed. He makes small problems look impossible, past mistakes feel unforgivable, and future challenges appear hopeless. He convinces a believer that they are alone, that they are failing, or that nothing will ever improve. But Allah assures us in the Qur'an that Shaytan has no authority over those who place their trust in him. The whispers may come, but they cannot overpower a heart anchored in remembrance. Every time you say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitan irajim, it is like closing a door in his face. Every time you redirect your thoughts to Allah, you rob him of the power he tries to claim over your mind. People often underestimate how spiritual thoughts look identical to psychological ones. A believer may think they are just overthinking or stressed, not realizing that Shaytan often disguises his whispers as their own inner voice. He makes you replay conversations, exaggerate fear, imagine worst-case scenarios, and dwell on things you cannot change. He makes you feel guilty for worshipping imperfectly, hopeless about your du'as being accepted, and ashamed of mistakes that Allah has already forgiven. But once you recognize that not every thought belongs to you, your entire internal world begins to change. You start to separate truth from illusion, peace from manipulation, and inspiration from deception. There is immense power in pausing when your mind feels attacked. When you take even a single breath and remind yourself that Allah is near, the intensity of those thoughts begins to dissolve. Imagine a person standing in a storm. At first everything feels chaotic, the winds loud, the rain overwhelming, but then they step under a shelter, and suddenly the storm does not disappear, but it loses its reach. Remembering Allah turns your heart into that shelter. It does not erase the challenges of life, but it limits how deeply they can harm you. Shaytan's whispers cannot penetrate the heart of someone who brings Allah's into their thoughts with consistency and sincerity. Every time you turn to Dhikr, recite Qur'an, make a small dua, or even pause to remind yourself of Allah's mercy, you weaken Shaytan's influence. He cannot survive in a mind that frequently returns to remembrance. He cannot manipulate a heart that trusts Allah's plan. He cannot discourage a soul that knows trials are temporary, and that relief is promised. When you remind yourself that Allah sees you, hears you, and knows your struggle, your mind begins to soften, and the knots within you start to untangle. Clarity enters where confusion once lit, hope rises where fear tried to settle, and tranquility begins to spread through the heart. Shaytan attacks the mind because he knows that a troubled mind leads to a troubled heart, and a troubled heart leads to weakened faith. But the believer who learns to recognize his whispers no longer becomes a victim to them. They rise above them, push through them, and eventually reach a level of inner strength, where even the strongest whisper cannot shake their trust in Allah. There are countless stories of individuals who have faced the relentless attacks of Shaytan upon their minds, stories that reveal how the darkness of doubt and fear can be transformed into the light of faith and clarity through trust in Allah. One young man, overwhelmed by guilt for past mistakes, felt as though he could never return to Allah fully. Every day, Shaytan whispered that he was beyond forgiveness, that Allah could not accept someone so flawed. His mind replayed every failure, every misstep, every unfulfilled promise he had made, and each thought weighed heavier than the last. Yet in a moment of desperation, he remembered a verse from the Qur'an. Say, O my servants who have transgressed against themselves by sinning, do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Indeed, Allah forgives all sins. Indeed, it is He who is the forgiving, the merciful. That single verse became a turning point. Slowly, as he repeated it, reflected upon it, and allowed it to penetrate his heart, he felt a lightness replacing the heaviness, a hope replacing despair, a clarity replacing confusion. Another example comes from a woman burdened by anxiety about her future. She had studied hard, worked diligently, and done everything she could think of to secure her career and life. Yet every door seemed to close, every opportunity seemed delayed, and her mind was a battlefield of worry. Shaytan amplified every small failure, magnified every uncertainty, and whispered, "This is never going to work out. You are alone. Nobody will help you." One morning, she found herself in the quiet of her home, and remembered to recite the morning dhikr, taught by the Prophet ﷺ. With each repetition, her heart began to feel the presence of Allah. The anxiety started to loosen, and gradually, she could see solutions and guidance that had been invisible before. Doors she had never imagined opened shortly after. Connections were made that changed her path, and she realized that the battles in her mind were a preparation for blessings that were already being sent. Even the lives of the prophets illustrate this pattern. Prophet Yusuf was thrown into a well by his brothers, sold into slavery, and imprisoned unjustly. Yet his mind remained focused on Allah. Shaytan would have whispered doubt and hopelessness to anyone in his position, yet Yusuf's reliance on Allah turned moments of despair into stepping stones for divine elevation. When he later became a trusted advisor in Egypt, he understood that every period of mental attack, every moment of uncertainty and trial, had been a preparation for the role he was destined to play. His story teaches us that the mind, when anchored in remembrance and trust, can navigate trials without breaking, and that what feels like a dark moment is often the precursor to the greatest light. Real-life examples are not limited to those in the distant past. Every day, ordinary people face extraordinary mental attacks and emerge stronger. A student who failed repeatedly, yet maintained nightly prayers, eventually gained acceptance into the program they had been dreaming of. A mother overwhelmed by responsibility, negative thoughts and doubts about her worth found solace in early morning Qur'an recitation, which gave her the patience, clarity and energy to transform her family life. A young professional dealing with constant internal criticism learned to combat it with dhikr, and soon found opportunities for career advancement that seemed impossible before. These examples show that when the mind is under attack, Allah sends signs, guidance, and support exactly where and when it is needed. The key lesson in all these stories is that mental battles are not indicators of weakness, they are opportunities for spiritual growth, resilience and divine preparation. Shaytan attacks the mind because he knows it is the gateway to the heart, and he wants to disrupt faith before it can strengthen. But Allah equips those who remember Him, trust Him, and persevere with tools far greater than Shaytan's whispers. Each whispered doubt, each intrusive thought, and each wave of fear becomes a training ground for patience, reliance and trust. Those who recognize the signs, respond with remembrance, and take conscious steps to reconnect with Allah, turn the battlefield of the mind into a sanctuary of clarity, hope and peace, preparing your heart for the next battle with Shaytan, and for the blessings Allah has written is a journey of awareness, discipline, and trust. Life will always present challenges, but those who are mindful, who cultivate inner resilience, and who actively seek closeness to Allah, are the ones who find themselves standing strong when whispers and doubts arrive. Preparation begins with understanding that your mind and heart are like a field. If left unattended, weeds of negative thoughts, fears and doubts will grow, giving Shaytan a place to settle. But if you tend your heart with dhikr, supplication, Qur'an recitation, and conscious reflection, you create fertile ground where trust, peace and clarity can flourish. Every act of worship, every moment of mindfulness, every intentional pause to remember Allah, strengthens your heart's ability to resist attack and receive mercy. Building this resilience requires consistency, even when it feels small or insignificant. The Prophet ﷺ emphasized daily habits, small but regular, that prepare the soul for trials and blessings alike. Even 2 units of sunnah prayer, a few moments of morning dhikr, or a brief reflection on Quranic verses can have a profound impact over time. These practices are like armor. They do not make you immune to Shaytan's attacks, but they give you strength, focus and perspective, so that his whispers cannot take root. They create a rhythm in your life, where remembrance becomes second nature, and your heart begins to automatically seek Allah whenever darkness or doubt approaches. Another key element of preparation is cultivating awareness of Shaytan's tactics, recognizing that the attacks on your mind are not random or personal, but a part of a spiritual test, changes your response entirely. When you understand that whispers of fear, shame or hopelessness are attempts to divert you from Allah, you stop giving them power power. You learn to pause, take a breath, and redirect your attention to the truth. Allah's mercy, His presence and His plan are greater than any lie Shaytan whispers. The act of conscious redirection is a form of spiritual training that strengthens the heart, sharpens the mind, and allows you to respond rather than react, to act with intention rather than impulsively, and to rise above despair rather than sink into it. Forging this inner strength also involves patience and trust. Often the blessings Allah has written arrive in ways that we do not expect, and at times, that test our faith. A person may pray for years for relief, guidance, or opportunity, only to feel that nothing is happening. But in the meantime, Allah is shaping their character, building their resilience, and preparing them for what is coming. A heart trained in Dhikr, Qur'an and supplication will recognize the signs of Allah's mercy, even in subtle moments, and will respond with gratitude and trust instead of doubt and frustration. The believer learns to see delays not as denials, failures not as punishments, and trials not as hopelessness, but as opportunities for growth and preparation. Part of this preparation is also learning to protect your environment, your companions, and your habits, avoiding influences that reinforce Shaitan's attacks, surrounding yourself with people who remind you of Allah, and engaging in activities that strengthen your mind and heart, all contribute to readiness. The believer who prepares is like a traveler, who packs provisions, maps and tools before embarking on a journey. When storms come, they are not caught off guard. When darkness falls, they are not lost. When trials hit, they can navigate with confidence and clarity. Finally, preparation for blessings means cultivating a heart that can receive them. Many people pray for sustenance, opportunity, guidance, or success, but if the heart is cluttered with doubt, fear, or negativity, those blessings may not take root. A prepared heart is soft, receptive, and aware. It can recognize the mercy Allah places before it, act upon it, and preserve it. By training the heart through dhikr, patience, mindfulness, and conscious trust, the believer aligns their inner world with Allah's will, ensuring that when the blessings arrive, they are embraced fully, nurtured wisely, and multiplied through sincere action and gratitude.